something to do at the time, you know. I mean, and later in that year, I kind of lucked out getting a gig because I work in TV, and that business was pretty much shut down when COVID hit, or they were trying to figure out how to do it. And I lucked out getting on a show that was filming in Alaska, and on the way back, I went to for the first time since COVID started, I went to a record store in Anchorage, Alaska, called Obsession Records. And when I was there, I was like, this wasn't anything I'd ever done before, but I just decided to do it. I decided to film a video about my visit to Obsession Records in Anchorage. And that sort of started, as things started opening up, that sort of started becoming a regular thing that I like to do. That's the thing I like doing the most, is like showing off record stores, because I'm on the road a lot, and wherever I am, I'll try to go to, you know, the local record stores or whatever, and do a video on them, you know. And you know, just I like doing that the most, just kind of showing people some of these other places that are out there. And in the event that, like, say you were like, hey, I'm taking a trip to Louisiana, maybe there's some record stores there, perhaps you'll find one of my videos and get a look and go like, oh yeah, I think I'd like to check that place out, you know. You
Very
know,
cool.
That's the gist of it.
So it looks like a little bit of that first portion of the live stream might have gotten cut out. So if you're just joining us, I've got Steve Herold here, and I'm really excited to have him here. As he just said, it's going to be the best live stream ever.
I think so. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. Yeah. You do not seem as confident as I do.
No, I'm really excited, and I think it's going to be one of the best ever, and it's going to be a really fun
I said it's the best. What are you doing?
Excellent. So I don't think we've missed anyone. Chris is joining us. Hi, Chris. So if you want to reach out to Steve, subscribe to his channel. I'm going to put all of his info in the description box in the live stream once it gets posted, and all the chat will be posted if you're not able to join us live. And so I have a few questions to start out with Steve. And the first one I asked him was, when did you start your YouTube channel? And you basically just described that you started it during the pandemic. And so tell me, why did you decide to start sharing your collection of music?
Well, I mean, I grew up liking music a lot. When I was a teenager and got into it, it was a lot of like top 40 and what we now know is classic rock. Obviously back then we didn't call it classic rock. But probably when I was in high school, I really kind of got into like buying music a lot more, you know, as we went along. And so I've always listened to music and always been a big fan. When I was a teenager, I guess it was like early high school, freshman, sophomore year of high school, I had like, I made my own like top 40 list. Like Billboard. I used to do that. And so yeah, I was obsessed with music videos. I think that was part of why I was like listening to a lot of top 40 stuff and the 80s, whatever, because I was watching music videos like crazy, you know. But I mean, I started showing the records because I, you know, had seen other people doing it, and I thought maybe I could. I like to blab away for a little bit, you know, and I thought I could show my records and have something to say about them or where I got them or what have you. I oddly have like a pretty good memory with a lot of my records. Like I can pull stuff off the shelf and kind of remember, like I remember where I got this and what have you, you know. But yeah, I just kind of enjoy doing that. It's something, and you know, I told somebody else, like, I don't know about you, Stephanie, but like, I don't really have all my friends around here, you know, I grew up with or whatever, like they listen to music, they'll go to concerts or whatever, but none of them, there's like maybe one or two that still will buy records, but mostly not. So like, I don't really have people to talk about music that much with. So like doing these YouTube videos have introduced me, like yourself and a bunch of people. And it gives you somebody to like talk about these records with as well, you know, and I think that was a big part of the appeal to me, you know.
Yeah, same with me. Like I didn't even know it was a thing. I mean, I knew that vinyl was coming back, and I started meeting people in my local community that were into records, and that's how I started getting into doing the DJ thing. You know, taking out our actual records and doing it. And I thought, I
Right.
want to do this too. I've got a record collection, and I thought it was so fun. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't nobody I know, my old school friends, they don't do it anymore. I had to meet a whole new community of people, and that's what I found on YouTube. I wasn't necessarily searching for it. I was just kind of maybe looking up music, and I discovered this whole VC community just by chance, just by researching music. And I thought, wow, these are my people.
Right.
Like, I want to do this too. I've got, and so you can totally geek out, and people want to talk about it, and they want to listen to you, and they want to see your record. So it's kind of cool that it's like a show and tell, and you get feedback, and it's just, I've been meeting so many neat people from all over the place. And it's like, kind of like the old pen pals that you
Yeah.
look in the back of the magazines, and you'd find like the people from all over the US and all over the world, and you could write. And so it's like having pen pals kind of,
Yeah.
but they're, custom to what you're interested in. So
Yeah. And because like I mentioned, I travel for work all the time. So I've been lucky that I've been able to, like, if I'm going to be someplace near where somebody that I am friends with on here with records or whatever, I'm like, I've met up with a few of them at stores. Like, let's go to that store and hit up the store and check it out and hang out and grab something to eat or whatever. So even on that level, it's been kind of fun too,
Oh
like,
yeah,
you know,
super fun.
yeah.
So we have Chris here and Dusty Spins. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
And then we have our friend here from France, and I'm not sure what your name is, but hello and welcome. So I have another question for you. Okay, so I did a little bit of stalking on your site, and you have a lot, or your YouTube page. You have a lot of videos, and so it was just way too much for me to catch up on your history or whatever. But
I have no life. I just make YouTube videos.
You have great videos where you've toured record shops, and I think that's so cool because it kind of gives everyone an idea of if they're going to be in the area where they should go. And of course, you were just in England, which was super cool. But I saw something about this website you have called Joint Films. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the dream was to make movies. That was the dream. And, I've been up and down the roller coaster that is trying to accomplish that. And I saw, that site was mainly for, like, we were making short films, basically, for film festivals and stuff like that. And also to use them sort of as calling cards to try to get some interest for some scripts we were working on, to try to get a feature film off the ground. So that's basically what that site is all about. I mean, we're still sort of doing that. It's just, it's a tough business, as everybody knows, and it's hard. We've gotten pretty close here and there, and then things fall apart. And lately, I have a friend who's got a band, and we just started doing a couple music videos for his band. So, like, which I mentioned before, I loved music videos growing up. I mean, I couldn't get enough of them. We didn't have MTV when I was younger, so I'd have to watch like Friday night videos and stuff like that, and I would tape them. But I'd never made a music video, and he put out some music, and I was like, "Hey, you thinking of doing any music videos?" And he was like, "We are," and he was kind of telling me some ideas, and I was like, "I got a better idea than that." So we just started filming. We shot last fall. We shot 2 videos for him. One's done, and we're just kind of figuring out, like, we're kind of getting ready to kind of like put it out there, and we're editing the second one, and we're going to shoot a third one. So that's the Joint Films is kind of wraps around that kind of like indie film kind of stuff that we do as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's like I was just watching some kind of something on YouTube about was an interview with Quentin Tarantino and how he ended up, going from working at a video shop to moving closer to LA and making movies and getting into that industry and stuff. So is that why you were in LA, or are you from?
Yeah. I was I moved to Los Angeles, and I lived in Los Angeles in the 90s in good old North Hollywood. When I lived in North Hollywood, we used to call the crime capital of the world when I lived there. But now it's like this trendy neighborhood. Like whenever I go back and we go to that neighborhood, it's like this trendy happening section of town with all these cool restaurants and everything. And we're like, damn, where was this when we lived here? Because there was like nothing there, you know? And I mean, but yeah, I moved out there with a handful of friends. We were working on a sketch comedy thing at the time.
Oh, cool.
And a bunch of us moved out there, and, you know, we kind of, tried to get stuff off the ground. We were kind of naive. We didn't really, sort of know what we were doing, or we weren't going about it the right way. And, but it is what it is. But I love it out there. We talked previously about what's going on out there, and our hearts certainly go out to all those people. And, but yeah, that was the main reason why I headed out there. And I grew up a Los Angeles Rams fan, but they left town. When I got to town, they moved away. So, now they're back though.
Yeah, I was gonna say by your accent, I know that you're not a native. But I was born and raised in Burbank, so very close. Yeah. And I moved away in the early 90s to Central Coast.
We missed paths then, I guess.
Yeah, maybe for sure.
Yeah. Burbank was nice. Burbank was not North Hollywood back. Even Burbank was even nice.
No,
it was nice.
It was a pretty nice place.
I like
sorry about that background noise. Someone's got a motorcycle and they're cruising out of here.
I see my buddy Jack up in Canada, the CD Cave. That's Jack up in Canada. He's a good dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know him.
Okay, cool. So I think I have a couple more questions for you, but I just wanted to say hello to everyone who is joining us today. We've got all these people coming in now, and I'm going to start putting the comments up here. And so welcome, everybody. I've got Steve Herold with me if you're just joining us. And he has gracefully joined me for an hour. And I'm super excited because we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. And the whole main theme of this live stream is that we're going to be discussing record stores of our youth. And he's going to show some music related to that topic. And but mainly we're going to be talking about record stores. And I have some really cool trivia and facts about that I'm going to look up real quick right here. So I was looking up I was just curious, what was the first record shop that ever opened? And according to my search here, it was Spiller's Records in Cardiff, Wales. It was opened in 1894 and it's considered the world's first record shop. And apparently it's still open.
Oh, wow.
So we're here in the US. If any of you in that neck of the woods have ever been there or they know about it, go ahead and make a comment about that. And that would be really cool.
It's funny you say that because I just saw an Instagram post just last week. And there's some record store in Pittsburgh that I think they said was the post was about this was the very first record store in the United States. And it was still open, or it's either that or it's the oldest one that's still operating or something like that. I forget the name of it, but I kind of was let me make a note of that in case I'm ever in Pittsburgh. It'd be cool to kind of see. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, interesting. And sorry about that last feedback. I had it going while you were talking, so that was pretty rude, but I'm still learning how to do this live stream thing here. Okay, cool. All right. So also too, so I also looked up, I know what record stores I went to, but I was curious, maybe to jog some of your memories. I looked up popular record shops in the 1970s and 80s, and sorry I didn't leave out the 60s there. But we have Tower Records, and apparently Tower Records started in 1960 and opened in Sacramento, California. There's also Rough Trade. It says for you UK people, and it says it was known for punk and indie music in London. In USA, we had Sam Goody, which was a chain that you could find in the mall. And me, I love going to the Glendale Galleria. That was my thing as a pretty young kid in the 80s. And I'm more of a 90s girl myself. I'm in my late 40s. So at the time, I think for me, it was more of cassette tapes and CDs, but I did have vinyl that I inherited and collected a lot of vinyl in the 90s, which is why I have so many records. We have the Virgin Mega Store, started in the 70s in the UK, expanded globally in the 1980s. Let's see, HMV, His Master's Voice. I haven't heard of that one. So if any of you know, let me know.
I've been to one of those in Australia.
Oh, cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, you've been all over the place. This is awesome. Okay, so Wax Track Records, a hub for punk and industrial music in Chicago. And oh man, I saw My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult a few times in the 90s and recently, and they're so much fun. I believe they're on Wax Tracks. Rhino Records. Oh man, it was my dream to work for Rhino Records. And then Bleecker Bob's, a cult favorite in NYC for rare vinyl. Okay.
Bleecker Bob's, I was never a fan of. I've been there. I used to go to the Village in New York. Used to be great for record shops. I was never a fan of Bleecker Bob's, but there was one very close to that called that I was going to bring up. It was called Second Coming Records, right south of Washington Square Park. And I used to go there and get all. They had all. You could go there for all like bootleg records and imports and promos. It was like I used to collect Van Halen stuff back in the day, and I used to go there and come home with like an arm full of like British imports, like 12 inches and radio promo singles, and that place was great. Loved it. But yeah, there's a great documentary about Tower Records. I don't know if you've seen it. I think it's called All Things Must Pass.
No, I haven't seen it.
Out. It's easy to find. It's streaming wherever, but it's definitely worth checking out. It's a really, really good documentary about Tower.
Definitely will check that out. Okay, The Addict in Pittsburgh a lot. Okay, so we did a little bit of trivia about some record shops here. And so now we're going to get into some of the record shops from your youth. So where did you go?
So I mentioned Second Coming, but that came later. That came in like high school. And the way that I discovered that place is in high school, our art teacher, I took art class, and our art teacher would take us on a class trip to New York City. I didn't go to school in New York City. We would take a class trip to New York City, and we basically, I guess they sold it to the school as like we were going there to look at art. And that was what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to go, we'd get off the bus in the Village and pretty much just had free reign. We weren't like walking around as a class. The teachers got out of the bus and they were just like, all right, be back here at 1 o'clock, and we just all of us kids would just go hit the city streets. And me and my friend really had no interest in art. And so we would go, but we knew all the record stores were down there. That was the first time I ever went into a Tower Records. It was on 4th and Broadway in New York City. And walking in, I can still remember walking into that place like it was yesterday. It was just, it was like 3 or 4 stories tall. It was just like, it was like amazing. I couldn't believe it. And you would find stuff there that was not in suburbia where I lived, and it was just this amazing place. And that also, wandering around after going to Tower Records, that's how I stumbled across Second Coming Records. I didn't know of it. Wasn't the plan to go there. It just discovered it walking the streets. But my youth, the 2 stores that I can think of, one of them was called Platypus, and their logo was like this little cat on a record spinning around. And it was like the classic like 80s like mom and pop record store, like wood panel walls and the posters hanging up, and you could get bootlegs and stuff there. I'll show you. This I didn't buy. My brother bought this, and I inherited it. This is a bootleg Who album, pretty famous bootleg Who album called Tales from the Who. when I was a kid, I didn't know this was a bootleg. I thought it was a real album. But that came from Platypus. And I remember, you know, it's maybe like mid 80s. There was some records I wanted to get rid of, and I knew that they bought records. And I remember going there, and same like you, I initially started off with cassettes. And I remember like having like a handful of these cassettes where I was like, I don't really want these anymore. I'll sell them Platypus. And I'm going in there thinking I'm going to get like, you know, like 10, walk out with like $10 or something. And they're like, I'll give you a quarter for that and a quarter.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, you know, but Platypus was like, yeah, that was just like an amazing shop. That was kind of like the first place that, you know, we would go to. And then the other one that we would go to all the time was called Jack's Music Shop in Red Bank. And that's where I live now. And Jack's still around. They're like maybe 2 blocks that a ways. And they're still there. And that was like the other shop that you would always go to. And I have this album that I bought 41 years ago there. Van Halen, 1984. This is the copy that I bought there. And the weird thing is, I don't know why I have this, because this is not something that I would do back then. But for some reason, I still have the receipt. And that bananas. I don't know how.
You put it inside.
No, I did now, but it was just in like one of these bins that I just have a bunch of junk from my childhood, and I found it January 14th, 1984. I bought it.
Wow.
$7.49. But I don't know why I have this. It's just so weird to me that that somehow exists. But it's funny too. Like I was talking about walking into Tower. I can remember this day that I bought this clear as night. You know, I mean, I don't know if that's really a saying, clear as night, but yeah, Jack's was just awesome, and I still go there. They're still a really, really good store. A lot of good stuff in there. Like sometimes I'll go in there and look, especially like their used CD section is really awesome because it almost feels like curated. It's not like, you know, 100 copies of like Poison greatest hits. No offense to all the Poison fans, but you know what I mean? Like you go in some of those stores, it's like you see stuff and you're like, this has just been sitting here for 100 years, you know?
Right.
And, but their used CD section especially is very like really good. You find stuff in there and you're just like, wow, I can't believe I found this. But those were like the 2 big ones from my youth. And then once you get a little older, we can go into New York City. Then it's Tower Records, Second Coming for all the promo stuff and what have you. But those were like the really big ones. And when I was out in California, I'm representing Moby Disc here. I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with them. But every Friday I'd go to Tower and Moby Disc in Sherman Oaks, right on Ventura. Every Friday, right over there or whatever. But those were the big ones from my youth, aside from like the mall one, you know, the mall, the Record Worlds and stuff like that. Sam Goody.
I remember seeing just a comment last night from David Ellis and you guys were talking about Moby Disc, and I completely had forgotten about that until you guys had mentioned it. You know, I wasn't a big music purchaser in LA because of my age at the time. I had cassette tapes that I probably got gifted for Christmas and things like that. Yeah. And then I inherited some records from my dad and my stepdad. And so that's what really got me into listening to and collecting records at that point. But I do remember like the cassette thing was my jam, like there. And I would go to a place called Music Plus. And that was really, you know, so much fun. And I remember like my dad taking me to Tower and Hollywood and all that, and just the various shops around, and then the mall, you know, places. But I wouldn't have considered myself when I lived in LA, a music collector, because I was too young.
Yeah.
But I do, you know.
Do you still have all your cassettes from when you were younger?
No. So it's a funny story. I had so many. I really had, you know, those big plastic containers that would just hold them all. I had so many cassettes, and I held on to them till like the early 2000s. At that point, I was living in San Francisco. I was living in a really small place, and I had a great, stereo system. I had a 6 CD disc changer, like Techniques, and I had a dual cassette player and a receiver and a turntable and all that stuff. And I had to make the hard decision to get rid of some stuff because I went through some major life changes. I got rid of all my cassettes. They were of no value in the early 2000s. Like, you basically just threw them out. Nobody wanted them.
That's what I did with mine. I just put them on Craigslist. Like, anybody want them, come take them. They were just in like a milk crates on the porch.
That's what I did. And I had all kinds of cool shit then. I had like a Juno 6 synthesizer, and I had, guitars and CDs and all kinds of stuff that I just got rid of. Cool clothes, just all kinds of stuff. And when I moved, I just had to make that decision to get rid of stuff. And I wish that I would have kept it. I mean, there's a little bit of resurgence with cassette tapes, but still not. But I have so many great cassettes that I bought, and I just have, as I watch people in the vinyl community, I'm remembering, oh yeah, I had that on cassette, and what happened to that? Oh, it was on cassette. And so, I slowly started to rebuild that on CD.
Yeah.
And then once MP3s came out, I was like, I kind of stopped buying CDs. But I also had, tons of CDs. I had like those IKEA cases full of CDs in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that I sold for money or whatever. I took them to Amoeba in San Francisco and just got, barely nothing for them. So I could pay my rent,
No, I know.
So yeah, I mean, I've been seeing like these CD challenges come out, and I'm like, dude, I don't really remember the first CD I bought, but like, I know I had it, and I may still have some. And so I kept probably like my favorites, and I have a few hundred now, but I had so many.
What do you have more of, CDs or vinyl? Well, you inherit a lot of vinyl.
I have probably more vinyl now than I do CDs. My CDs, I really didn't take good care of them. I was very irresponsible. They lived in my car. The jewel cases got smashed, But yeah, I pick them up sometimes still, and all that. But what about you?
I have more CDs because I think when I had quite a few, not a ton, but I had a handful of cassettes. I had vinyl, a handful of vinyl, but probably in like the, I guess in like the late 90s or whatever. No, maybe like the 2000s, I finally got rid of whatever vinyl I had left, because I just, the vinyl resurgence or whatever was starting to brew a little bit. Like I was working in New York at the time, and I remember going to like, there was a Virgin Megastore down in Union Square. And I remember going down there one time and looking, they had a very small section of records. And this is probably like mid 2000s. And I remember looking at some replacement albums, vinyl, which I didn't have. I had those all on CD. And I thought about like, maybe I should get a record player, and then I kind of just was, I started buying, I remember buying like some Ramones vinyl records thinking that I was going to get a record player. And then for whatever reason I didn't. And I sold those Ramone records off with the rest of my vinyl because I just didn't think I would. I know. I was kicking myself. And I just thought I wouldn't get into that. CDs, I just kind of stuck with, but like that, I think like in the 90s and later, like the early 2000s, when I really started like really buying like music like a lot, like but that's around when I really started buying used stuff. Before that, I wasn't really buying used stuff. So like once I started buying used stuff, because I even remember going into a store one time and they had some used stuff, and I kind of was like, I don't want to buy like a used one, like I want a brand new one. It might be messed up and all this. But like once I kind of crossed that barrier and used was fine, like I just started buying a ton of CDs. But yeah, I kind of stuck with that format. But what happened was I got a record player. My uncle gave me a record player, like he was getting rid of his. And so I got the record player, and then I started getting back into buying vinyl and stuff. But I've tried to keep it, like, I've tried to maintain that not getting out of control. Like, I mean, it's the weird cycle. Like, when CDs came around, I was buying cassettes and vinyl, and the CDs came, you're like, well, I'll just buy like my favorite records on CD. I'm not going to start buying everything. But then that changed, and I bought everything on CD. And then when the CD, when, you know, I was buying CDs, and then when I got the record player, I was like, well, I'll just buy like some of my favorite records, you know, but I don't want to go crazy. But then I started feeling like I was going crazy. I was buying stuff I already had on CD, on vinyl, and I was like, I gotta
gotta reel it in.
Yeah, I gotta ease up on this, you know. It's just like, but yeah, it's just funny how all that works. But yeah, the CDs I still kind of prefer between the two, I think, you know.
I really love my CDs, and I think the sound quality is great on CDs. I'm not a snob, you know. I just like music.
Yes, you are, Stephanie. You can be honest here. We all know you are.
I still have some.
Don't you end all these? I thought you ended all these live streams smashing a CD with like a hammer or whatever. You're not.
Well, I'm glad
Canada would have a heart attack if you did that.
It seems like the new trend for 2025 is the CD, the comeback of CDs. I'm already seeing it, feeling it.
Yeah, I see people writing that, but I don't see that. When I go in stores, I'm usually like one of the only people looking through CDs. I don't know if that's the case for you, but people keep saying that. I just don't. One of the music videos we just did for my friend's band, we did in a record store not far from here. And he's pretty much just all vinyl. He has like a shelf of CDs, but I know he doesn't like that format whatsoever. And for the video, we needed to create a CD section in his store. So we had to bring in like all these CDs and everything to create a CD section. And I mean, I was joking with him that day, you know, like if he was like getting all like, you know, jittery or whatever, seeing all these CDs in his store or whatever. You know, but yeah, I don't know. Like I keep seeing that, but I don't see it when I go to stores, you know, like I don't see, you know, like really a bunch of people digging through. But I mean, I think, you know, I think maybe the sales are doing okay or whatever, but
well, I just meant pretty much like there's a resurgence in the vinyl community or the music community on YouTube. I'm seeing like it seems to be a trend, but not like I don't have actual numbers from record shops or whatever. But that's how it starts, right?
yeah, no, it's true.
And they're definitely cheaper than records.
Yes.
But so like going back to record stores of our youth, just really briefly, like I started, I was a teenager, CDs were super popular. I was still collecting tapes at the time. I did the whole Columbia House thing from the Rolling Stone magazine or whatever, where I got the whole group of it. And then I gave my parents the bill. They're like, what the hell? And then, you know, very late in the game, I got a CD player and started buying CDs. Yeah. And then at the same time, I was not like grunge was super popular when I was, you know, a teenager, and I just wasn't into it as much as my friends. And I was into more like, you know, early 80s stuff and late 70s stuff and new wave and punk. And I started getting into that. And so I couldn't find a lot of that on CD. So I started taking the bus to San Luis Obispo, to the record shops. There was a kind of a comic book shop called Cheap Thrills, and everyone was getting rid of their vinyl in the, you know, early mid 90s, and it was super cheap. And I was just, there was no internet. I had my trouser press guide or whatever that I'd read, that I picked up from the bookshop, and I would just pick up whatever I remember reading about. And like, that's how I got my education, through the library and books and just picking up random stuff. And so that was my thing then. And then it turned into kind of like you said, just overbuying. I moved up north. I started going to Streetlight, was one of my favorite places.
I went there in Santa Cruz.
Yeah. The one in San Jose was the one I used to go to every single weekend. That was my routine. There was a Rasputin Records there, and Tower was there as well. But Streetlight was my favorite place to pick up really good records and CDs. And I still remember it. Like, you know, you'd walk in that place, you just hear the click, 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 clicking through CDs just in rows, you know. And I would go to the back where they had the records, and I'd go to the bargain bins, and it was just, it was such like a dopamine hit to just find these records super cheap, and oh, I was so excited to get back. And in the meantime, I pick up a few CDs and put them in my CD player in my old Geo Metro, and I'd cruise around feeling really cool, and I'd go home and I'd put my records on my turntable, and that was just really fun, and it was a great time. And so those were some really great places. Of course, the thrift shops too, right? And sometimes someone had mentioned swap meets were really a great place to go.
Yeah, flea markets are pretty good. I didn't really get into the thrift store aspect of it. It never occurred to me that they would have CDs and records until it was probably like literally 2016. I was down in Louisiana working on a show, and we'd have our weekends off, and we were going to be there for like 6-7 months. And I was like, hey, we're down here. Why don't we take our weekends, the rest of the crew, a couple of them, I was like, hey, let's make a short film while we're down here. Why not? And so we were working on a short film, and I had to go to a thrift store to get, that's where you go to the thrift store to get like the costumes and props and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I went to this thrift store down there in Baton Rouge. And as I'm going there looking for stuff we needed for the film, I noticed that they had all these CDs and stuff in the corner. And I was like, oh, and I went over to take a look, and I was like, holy crap, man, and I started and they were cheap as hell. And I found a couple of them, and that sort of that opened my eyes to because it never occurred to me that to even think of going to like a Goodwill or a thrift store to look for, I don't know why, but it just didn't. And until I saw them there at that store. And then ever since then, same thing. When I go to town to work, I go to the record stores or whatever, and then I'll hit up thrift stores around or Goodwills or whatever like that,
I don't remember there being too much too many CDs, but I started thrift shopping probably as a teenager, just because I liked the fun clothes. I saw Pretty in Pink and Molly Ringwald, and she wore the vintage clothes, and I thought, oh, that's so cool. And I discovered that they did have records there, and I mean, now you can find CDs so cheap at Goodwill and record thrift shops. Yeah. Gosh, we're getting a lot of comments, and I'm sorry, guys, I can't keep up with all these. So maybe next time. I think it's because you're on here, Steve. It's such a popular.
Because I won't shut up. I'm definitely gonna. These comments stay up though, right? So I'll definitely.
Comments stay up.
Yeah, Vinyl Gorilla is leaving a whole bunch. I would like to be able to read them, but
I just can't keep up. So sorry, guys. So I think that you've shown a record that you got from your youth. Sure. And I was going to ask you, this is kind of a fun question. So if you're going to show an album that was a guilty pleasure, which is an album that kind of doesn't really align with what we think that you like, and that maybe you might be a little bit embarrassed to tell all the cool kids of the VC about, what would that be?
This one probably everyone should be embarrassed to own. But when you asked me about that, when you brought that up, I was like, oh, what do I got? I was trying to think, and I couldn't think of anything, because I was like, I think like everybody, the first thing to look for, I'm like, I don't own any Debbie Gibson in my collection. Yeah. No offense.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, no offense. I know Debbie's watching, but I don't.
No, I even had her perfume.
Of course you do. You're still wearing the Electric Youth, are you?
No, but I did have the Electric Youth perfume, and I proudly wore it. And I had a Debbie Gibson cassette, a Tiffany cassette. I had the Weird Al. So
those are the first things that pop into your head, like some kind of top 40 bubble gum or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, damn, what can I show? And I'm like looking through, and I'm like, there must be something, and I couldn't think. And then I was going through, and I was like, oh, of course. Why? How could I have forgotten that I own? I'll take it out of the plastic so you can see the cover. The self-titled 1980 first and only album by Chevy Chase.
Well, that's cool, though.
It
I
is,
mean,
but if you listen
what
to
movie
it, it's
choose?
not cool. If you listen to it, you'll be like,
Yeah.
why would anybody? There is something. I know it's on YouTube, and everybody listening should just at least not now, but when we're done talking, go over and just listen to his song
Okay.
Rapper's Plight. It's like a parody
Okay.
of Rapper's Delight. I mean,
Uh-huh.
this album was there's when people make jokes about like an album that was made on cocaine. This
Right.
this is forget about any other record you've heard of in the history of music. No record better deserves that title. That should be like on a hype sticker on here
Yeah.
that says like made with
Yeah.
cocaine. But it's just goof. I mean, I grew up a huge fan of his. I know
Yeah.
people have issues with him or whatever, but I always thought he was
Oh, no.
hysterical.
Yeah, I think he's
And
funny.
I bought this album. I didn't even have a record player when I bought this. Like when I found out that it existed,
Right.
I think I didn't have a record player, but I just went on eBay and bought a copy just for the
Yeah.
hell of it. I was like, I should have that, and yeah, it's really like it's like I said, it's he does like a cover of "I Shot the Sheriff." He does a cover of "Short People,"
Oh,
but
man.
they're all like weird as
Okay.
hell. And like I said,
Yeah.
there's no question that it was fueled by cocaine. Now, the more embarrassing part about this maybe is so here it is. This came out on Arista Records in 1980,
Mhm.
vinyl, a cassette, I'm sure, probably maybe even 8-track, I don't know, but certainly not CD. It never came out on CD, and I'm sure it didn't sell well at all. But I had a friend digitally take the album, make digital tracks from it, and I made my own CD of it.
Oh my god.
Look, I did it all up. I got the whole thing. I did photoshopped all the artwork, made it nice. Even the spine says Chevy Chase with the Arista logo. Yeah, so that's the embarrassing part that I went to the trouble to make a CD of this thing. But yeah, that is I don't know. I'm sure Chevy owns a copy. I own a copy. That might be it. You know what I mean? I don't know that anybody else does.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed, and that's super cool.
Yeah.
So, like, and I would say, like, I someone introduced me to the Eddie Money, or not Eddie Money, but the Eddie
Eddie Murphy.
Murphy, the
Like
one
when he's
about
singing?
butts. Have you heard that
What's
one
it which one? Say
about
that again?
butts?
Yeah, Boogie in Your Butt. Boogie in Your Butt.
Boogie in your butt.
I have that. I have it. Yeah, I have it.
And
Yeah.
I got a really good kick out of that one.
That was
I
like, when the comedians would all put out I don't know,
exactly
they put out a comedy record, and then
right,
somebody or probably Steve Martin, he had the hit with King Tut. So,
right.
like,
So
then all the
fueled by
comedians
cocaine.
yeah, yeah. So all the comedians feel like, "Oh, I've gotta put on my comedy record, but I gotta put a song on there too."
Yeah.
So they would put like so that comedy record would be their stand-up, and they'd always have like a song on it. I have a Howie Mandel album, and he does like a song on it at the end. Like it's his stand-up, and then he does a song. Like all those comedians, that's what they were all doing. So that's what Boogie in Your Butt was, I think. It was like we need a song that the top 40 radio can play, Eddie.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah, and
funny.
we get Boogie in Your Butt.
Well, I mean, I like, I like him. I like Eddie
Eddie.
Murphy. I
Yeah.
think he's pretty funny.
Did you like
But
his
yeah, fueled
music?
by cocaine. And
What's that?
speaking of comedians, today is Howard Stern's birthday, and apparently he put out an
Oh, yeah.
album.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it. If any of you have, and so yeah. Um, looks like I'm reading the comments here. We got something going on. I definitely need to in the future get a moderator. I'm not really sure what's going on, but
Oh,
maybe we've got a troll coming in and out.
okay. All right.
Anywho, so so it is, yeah, Howard Stern's birthday today. I'm not sure what I think about him. He was born in 1954, and I think the album that he did was called Private Parts.
Now I think
Yeah.
that was his movie soundtrack. He did do a
Yeah.
comedy record. I know of the comedy record. I've never heard it either. But I forget what it's called. But I don't think it was called Private Parts. I think that was his movie soundtrack and stuff.
Well, that's what you get when you consult ChatGPT for
Oh,
factual
okay.
information, but it
All
can
right.
be kind of useful sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, okay, we got your guilty pleasure album. I'm gonna have to check out that Steve Martin album because I haven't heard it, but or Chevy Chase.
Sure.
Yeah. And I really do like Chevy Chase. I think my favorite movie from him, one of my favorites is Seems Like Old Times with Goldie
Oh,
Hawn.
yeah.
Really
Yeah.
love that one.
People never talk about that one. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I used to have it on DVD and I used to watch it all the time.
Yeah,
But I mean,
it's a funny movie.
yeah, it's a really great one. Okay, so now we're going to do an underrated album, and it's an album that you think is underrated, and just tell us why we should all listen to it if we haven't heard it already.
All right, this one, I've talked a lot about this one on some videos I did when I got it. I got this record. I was working down in South Carolina, and there was a store there called Mr. K's that was going out of business. So I went in there to take advantage of their sales they were having, and I saw this on the shelf. I'd never heard of this before, never heard of this band. Something about the album artwork just kind of caught my eye, and I looked up online like what kind of music it was, and it was kind of like post-punk. I think they were a New York band, kind of like post-punk or early new wave, something like that. And so that at least appealed to me. Like I didn't listen to anything in the store. I just saw like what kind of music was this. And reading that it was that kind of music, I was like, all right, I'll take a chance on it. I don't think it was that expensive. This is like an anthology that's put out. This band is called Human Switchboard.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard of them.
And yeah, I'd never heard of them either. And brought it home and listened to it and just instantly loved it. I mean, it's like there's elements of like maybe Blondie in there or Television. And they put out one album, which was called Who's Landing in My Hangar. And I just really loved this. And like I said, I mean, I'd never heard of them. Everybody I talked to, nobody had ever heard of them. And there's a couple of people I'm friends with on here. This dude, JT, he's up in Reno. And Sean Spins out in Philly. I was telling them because I thought they'd be interested in this, and I picked up a copy. I was at Amoeba in Hollywood, and I just was like thumbing through the bins, and I found their album on vinyl, the Who's Landing in My Hangar, and it was really cheap. I think it had like a little. It was steep. It was still sealed, but it had like a little crease maybe on it, so maybe that's why they knocked the price down a little bit. But I bought it to send to, I think I sent it to Sean, and then I got a copy to send it to JT because I thought those guys would really dig it, and they both really liked it. And then Sean kind of returned the favor, and like last year at some point, he was in a store in Philly and found this 45 by them and sent it to me.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, and I think there's 4 songs on here. I think one of them is on this anthology I have, because the anthology is like the album plus some live stuff plus stuff I think that was supposed to be their second album, but it never came out. So he sent me this 45, which is really cool. But yeah, this band, like if you like New York, like punk, new wave, post punk stuff, this band, I don't. The CD might be tough to find. I think the vinyl surprisingly is easier to find than this CD.
Yeah.
But yeah, really cool band. I'll have to see. I'll maybe grab a copy to get you. I think you might dig this too.
Have you looked it up? Is it on YouTube at all, or has anyone
the songs? I don't think I looked on YouTube to see if the songs were on there or not. But yeah, I mean, I just like I got this. I think it was the summer of 2023 that I found this, and I mean that whole summer I was just listening to this like constantly. You know, just a really cool band, really good stuff. You know, I really like this, but that's the one I always am trying to push down people's throats. When I got it that year in videos, or you know, where there'd be like one of those tag videos or whatever, like I always pull this out to the point I think people were like, all right,
right already, yeah,
we get it, you know. But yeah, that's what I would call like an underrated gem, even though probably nobody really knows of it. You know what I mean? So an obscure gem maybe or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool band. Really like them.
I definitely like the obscure stuff. So, okay. Hi, Paul. Well, thank you.
Oh, damn, he even included me in that comment.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So,
And David, I saw David popped on. David, I wore the Moby
yeah,
Dick shirt just for you, man.
isn't that cool?
Yeah,
Yeah, David is so awesome.
yeah,
He's
he's a good
always
dude.
giving me all this cool factual information and sharing all these great stories from, you know, his knowledge of working in the music industry. And I wish he had a YouTube channel
Yeah, yeah,
because that would be so much fun. And I keep pushing him, like, come on.
yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, I think that we have had a pretty good stream so far. And moving into 2025, I hope to be doing some more of these streams and maybe get bigger groups involved, maybe a moderator. I've been told there have been no trolls this hour. I will have to go back and look, you know. Definitely has been fun. And so, Steve, are you going to continue to be making videos into 2025? Do you think, or?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, the record store ones are the ones I like doing the most,
Yeah,
and so I'll never stop doing those. You know what I mean? Like you know, as far as just showing the stuff off, like stuff in what I've got that, you know, never been shown. I don't know, but like like, you know, if I kind of like ease up on doing these, I'll always pop back up if I happen to go to a store, and I'll always do a video about those kinds of things because that, like I said, I love doing that. I like, you know, I like, you know, exposing people to stores that are around, and I like helping what it, like in the most minor way. I like helping these stores, just kind of like, you know, letting people know about them and what have you, you know, and promoting them to some degree, you know. But yeah, so I will certainly continue doing that stuff, you know. I always like that aspect of doing these videos.
yeah, excellent. Yeah, I did a few little record shop tours, and they weren't really my most popular videos. But I think it was kind of fun for people like me that like to do like road trips and go to different record
Yeah,
shops and just kind of get a visual of what's in there and what it looks like. And even if you like when you were just in Europe, you know, being able to see like record shops, you know, you'll probably never get to see, and that's really fun.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing more videos and from you. Um, I'm probably going to be doing as much as I can in the new upcoming year. I've been having a really good time doing it. I think when it stops getting fun, you know, then I'll maybe stop doing them. But I really like doing the live streams. They're really just kind of
Yeah,
a
this
great
has been great.
yeah, to interact with everybody and geek out. And so let's see, we're almost getting into the tail end of our hour, and I know I must have a couple of more questions for you. Um, let's see. So you've shown your records, and
What about, are there any albums you're looking forward to that are coming out this year? Is there anything that you're
you
like
know,
kind of?
I'm really horrible with new
Yeah, me too.
music.
Yeah,
I'm really not, and I'm not really into much new music, and I haven't honestly been buying a lot of vinyl or anything. I mean, I have so much now.
yeah,
Um, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier before the live stream. I might have some new DJ gigs coming up, and I don't think I'm going to be buying vinyl for those. I think maybe I'll just be looking kind of into expanding my MP3 catalog, because I do DJ with vinyl records, and I also have like a digital controller which I hook up to my computer and I play MP3s
right.
through.
Yeah.
And those are really the best for these little small dance parties that I do. Like
You had
this.
to now. This is part of like my field of
Yeah,
expertise. You
right.
have all your music backed up onto a second external hard drive. You have everything doubled up.
Yeah, well, I learned the hard way when my
Oh,
son,
okay.
I got a big bottle of water,
Oh,
and
no.
my son said, this was years ago, and I had my MacBook Pro in a bag in the back of my seat, and my son was in his car seat. He said, "I'm thirsty." And I gave him the water bottle with an open mouth, and he dropped it right into my MacBook Pro, and I had all these MP3s that I'm not backed
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
And so the next time I had to do a DJ gig where I was playing, MP3s, I was like, oh no,
yeah,
shit,
yeah,
I'm out of luck. So
yeah,
yes, I
yeah.
did. I bought a big old, huge external hard drive, and I have been backing up my
Right.
stuff
Good,
for
good.
sure. But
Is
yeah,
there
it's
do you have, like, a want list? Like, I know you say you don't really go buying stuff too much anymore or whatever, but do you have, like, a little want list or anything like that of stuff that you're, like,
oh,
looking
I
for or whatever?
definitely do. And I mean, when I'm out at record shops around here, they don't really seem to have like the stuff that I want that is like the soul, the funk, the R&B is always just picked over. They don't have a
Yeah,
lot of that. They have a lot of like really typical um, classic albums that
yeah,
I'm not interested in. Like I want certain things and they don't have it. And then I have to end up going and buying it online. But yeah, I definitely have a want list of vinyl that I would purchase, and just kind of really, random things like I wanted to get a typo negative album.
right, right, right.
There's certain things that I want to get that are just kind of, that I would spend money on. There's, yeah, I have a little short list in my mind, but I'm like kind of on this like no spend kick to where I'm just trying to save money. I'm
I
getting
hear you.
older. I'm trying to save money for my future. And I have just so much excess of records and CDs and everything that I'm just trying to not spend money on it. So which makes it hard when you play music out, but I haven't done, like, it's been a long time since I've actually had to take out my physical records and play them.
Right.
So I really have no excuse to buy music
Yeah,
right
yeah, no.
now.
I'm trying to do that a lot more at home here,
Yeah,
like, play music because most of the time I listen to it driving. Like, I have a ton of
yeah.
stuff in my phone. Like, I
Mhm.
don't stream music at all. I don't use Spotify or whatever.
Yeah,
Everything that's in my phone is stuff I own that I put there. So,
yeah,
like, either I'm out walking for exercise or driving, that's when I listen the most, and then while I'm home here, there are times where I'm doing stuff, some work or whatever, and I'm like, "Why don't I should put some music on while I'm doing this," or,
yeah,
and I'm like, I got to kind of get uh, more like make that more of like a habit because like I'll
yeah,
do it sometimes and I'm like, yeah, I got to do this more. Like yesterday, I was listening to a bunch of stuff that I just picked up and I was like, yeah, I gotta. It's nice having the music playing in the house while I'm just kind of sitting around or whatever, And I'm like, I gotta make that more of like a regular routine or whatever.
yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Like I have on my agenda for 2025, like I want to go through all my MP3s and organize them, have a catalog of everything. I've been cataloging like when I've been doing the record purge, I've been
Right.
I did the transcription and I made a spreadsheet, everything I'm keeping, I'm not keeping, and kind of cataloging my whole vinyl collection in the process. But
What are
like,
you doing when you do all those videos? I like those videos you do where you're declutter or whatever.
yeah.
What are you doing with all those records you're getting rid of? Are you just bringing them to like the local record store to try to
Um,
get a little
n-
couple bucks, or just going to Goodwill with them, or
no, I still have them because I'm thinking about maybe doing a video about the ones I got rid of, but I haven't gotten rid of them yet. So I still
okay,
have them, and I
all
think
right,
before I take them all, I'm just gonna kind of go through them again and see.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think the responsible thing to do would be to responsibly trash or recycle the stuff that's not playable, the
right,
stuff that is playable that's not valuable to just give to Goodwill, and the
yeah,
stuff that is semi-valuable to maybe try and take to a record shop and sell. But I'm thinking that'll probably be at the tail end video, probably a few more videos, and I'll be through the whole record collection.
right,
But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun process, and some stuff I've completely forgotten that I have.
yeah,
And it's kind of like cleaning out your closet,
yeah,
but with records. So yeah, that's definitely been an experience, and also a really good way to share your records without having to feel the need to purchase a bunch of shit just so you can show it on your channel to make a video. I mean, you know, I'm not in a competition to have the biggest record collection. I just, I buy it as I can afford it, or if it really, you know, really sparks my desire to buy it, I'll buy it. But other than that, I'm kind of a picky consumer as far as when I'm out there shopping. I like to support the record shops though, but you know, there's only so much money, you know, available.
That's good too. Like, I mean, I think I got into a period maybe 2 years ago and a little before that where, because the CDs were so cheap that I'd go in like Goodwill or whatever, and where I was, like the Goodwills, the CDs were still 99 cents. I know out west they're a little bit more, but I'd go in there and there'd be stuff there and it's like 99 cents. You're like, how do you pass that up? But then I'd bring it home and a lot of times I'd be like, it's 99 cents, like, but I don't, it seems
maybe
like
for a song or two.
Yeah, and you're just like, you know, it's just like, I don't, okay, I bought it, but like, I don't think I'm gonna ever really listen to this. You know, I didn't really start purging stuff like majorly until like a year ago. I did like a big purge of my CDs. I was just looking to free up some space, and I thought maybe I could find like 10 of them I could get rid of, and I found like 40 of them. And I sort of like what you said. I listened to them one more time. Like, I'm like, all right, before I just get rid of this blindly, let me just listen to it more time and just make sure I want to get rid of it. And most of them I did. I think there were 2 or 3 that I was like, I think I'll keep these. But it felt great. It felt great getting rid of those because, you know, I think my mindset was I would never do that. And then when I did, I was just like, like I didn't regret it for a minute. And I just I was so happy to get rid of them. But yeah, I'm trying to be a lot more picky these days. Like something that I really like. There have been a lot of times where I find something and it's cheap, but I'm like, am I really going to listen to this? Do I really want this? And it's like, nah, just put it back. I don't care how cheap it is.
Well, it's just kind of like, you know, when I was collecting CDs, we didn't have MP3s, you know, I mean, it was not a thing. And so you had to buy it on CD. And I'm just, whatever format you can get it on to appreciate that the sounds good is great. I like records for the aesthetic purposes, you know, the physical, you know, experience of it all. That's great and everything. But just to have a CD for 1 or 2 songs. Seems a little pointless, but yeah, it is fun to go through the stuff that you do have. Well, anywho, I've taken you 4 minutes over your hour, and I really appreciate
you. How dare you?
What did you say? This was the best live stream
ever? Best one, right? Well, they'll be the judge of that. I think it was.
I think it was a great one. And you know, I'd love to have you back in the future if you have time.
And the next time I'm out that way, I can't believe that I drove right through town and you were right there, and I didn't know, or else we could have hit up. I went to Boo Boo, and you know.
Oh man, like I don't know if you were there during a weekday, but I seriously am like worked 3 blocks.
Yeah, and I walked around because I was there before they opened, so I was just walking around town, just Well,
next time
I went to Bubblegum Alley. And
that's I worked down there. So sorry I missed you, but next time,
for sure.
Send me a message, send me an email, and that would be great.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Steve. I look forward to your next videos. I'm going to put all your info. If you guys haven't already followed him, follow me. He's a really cool dude. And
I'll go through the comments and read them up and respond if anybody cares to hear what I got to say.
There should be a lot of interesting comments for sure.
All right. I'm sure.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And all you guys, thank you. Sorry we didn't get to respond to all your comments. We were too busy chatting. But we appreciate you showing up, and we'll respond when we have the replay going on in an hour or so. And okay, you guys all take care. Enjoy your Sunday, and we'll see you soon. I'm going to end the stream now. Bye, everyone. Thank you.